Welcome into a special edition of Spits and Suds. I'm Gavin Spittle of 1053 The Fan. We call these Spits and Suds one-timers, and it's awesome to have Jeff K. Known Jeff for a while, longtime PA announcer of both the Stars, 11 years with the Stars,
Yeah,
and 4 years now behind the mic of the Dallas Cowboys. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing great, Gavin. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The game presentation, I know a couple of years you guys have been voted the best game presentation in town, and that's a massive compliment. And as many games as I go to, and I started going to games down here about 2003, which was prior to Jeff K. And when you took over that spot, I definitely want to throw a massive stick tap to you. It was seamless because you replaced a longtime PA announcer, but it was like a seamless transition, and you have become synonymous with the game presentation. So massive stick tap.
Well, I appreciate that. I've always said I'm just a fan who got lucky. I was a season ticket holder of the Dallas Stars for a decade before I figured out a way for them to pay me to go to games. And crazy thing is they bought it, right? But, it started as being the music director because that was the natural connection I had. I was working with The Edge in the mid 90s when the Stars moved to Dallas in 93, 94. And I was one of the early adapters with the team, and being a season ticket holder, they said, wow, we've got somebody in the media who really gets us as a sport. So that over time developed into a consulting role with the team when they moved to the new building. And then I took over as the music director. That evolved into being the in-game host. And because my voice had become familiar to Dallas Stars fans in the arena as the in-game host, it seemed like a natural choice to move me into the public address announcer spot when Bill Ollerman retired.
Yeah. Bill just had that booming pipes. But I love your energy, what you bring to the table. So a season ticket holder, when did you actually get into hockey?
So I grew up on the East Coast. My dad used to take me to New York Rangers games at Madison Square Garden in the mid to late 70s.
Original six guy.
Yeah. So I kind of fell in love with the sport then, moved to Dallas to go to college in the early 80s, waited for a decade for an NHL team, but followed the sport the whole time. So when the Stars moved from Minnesota, I knew all about them. I knew about Mike Modano. I was really excited to have an NHL team. So, I caught the bug at an early age, but, seeing those games at the premier arena in the world at Madison Square Garden, especially as a child, was something that I never forgot.
How much did that knowledge translate into what you do today? Because, I grew up on hockey myself, but at the same time, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. And I think that's what you have to do to, get to the top, and it's just one of those interesting, facts because, there are things that happen during the game that if you're in your chair, not knowledgeable about the game, because it's not like you have 5 minutes to get the understanding.
Correct. As a public address announcer in the National Hockey League, there are certain requirements, a certain role you play that is quite different to being a PA announcer in the NBA or even the NFL. Quite honestly, I pinch myself. I never really had any public address experience prior to taking over for the Stars, but I was a fast adapter and I knew the sport and I knew what to look for and what to listen for. And then once I kind of got into the repetition of knowing exactly what to say and when to say it, I still made mistakes, but thankfully the Stars stuck with me. And over time, it becomes like anything. It's a muscle that you continue to build, and practice makes perfect.
Yeah. So when you say practice makes perfect, I think, one of the things that people may not realize, we deal with this at 1053 The Fan, and we do this thing across town called Fan Phenom, where people try out to become the next fan host. Right. And one of the things they quickly realize is the prep that goes into it. So take us through a game day and what you do as far as prep. And I'm also interested, is there vocal warm-ups for you?
Yeah. By the time that I've got a game ready, at 7 o'clock face off, I've already been on the radio myself. I do afternoons across town. I don't know if I can mention it, but I'm on the classic rock station in Dallas. So my voice, I feel, is warmed up. Where I run into some problems is when we've got a noon kickoff for the Cowboys. Then I've got morning voice and I've really got to do some vocal exercises to make sure I'm ready to go by noon. But yeah, again, it's like anything. The more reps you get, the more prepared you get, the better you're going to be. So I will get the rosters for the teams first thing in the morning. The Stars PR crew is fantastic. By the time I wake up, I've already got an email in my inbox. It shows me who the Stars are playing that night, how many goals, how many assists, how many points each player has. I'll go through the roster. I'll see which players I may or may not be unfamiliar with. I'll make sure I've got the pronunciations down. If there's something I'm not sure about, we've actually got a wonderful network, the PA Brotherhood in the National Hockey League, where we share ideas and we share information, and we also share pronunciations. We actually have a clandestine website that we use where we can go and pick a team, and that team gives you pronunciations of the current roster that's voiced by the public address announcer himself, so you know it's going to be accurate.
Are those pronunciations determined by the player or the team? And that's going to lead me to my follow-up question.
Well, by the time we get it from the public address announcer of that team, we understand that they've gone through, the hoops of figuring out. We've had some issues. A guy like Evgeny Dodonov.
That was my next question.
Is that your question? Okay. Yeah. So he's been through a couple of different pronunciations in his career. He started with Dodonov, then it was Dadonov, but last year, Josh and Razor pinned him down in the locker room, and they sent us a recording. Now, the thing that I laughed about was the recording was him saying it one time, and it was very quick. It was almost like, Evgeny Dodonov. Wait, what? I had to listen to it again. Evgeny Dodonov. So, I mean, you could hear Dadonov, but no, it's Dodonov, and that's what we're going with is Evgeny Dodonov. Yes.
Okay, because on this podcast, we say Dadonov, Dodonov almost on a nightly basis. The other one that Sean says, because my co-host went over to Finland, and he said, no, this is the correct pronunciation. Heiskanen, not Heiskanen. So tell me how you got to announcing Miro.
So that, again, came from PR. And what I've learned, my way in the world through the Dallas Stars is more successful when I just imitate Razor. So if Razor says it a certain way, I'm going to say it that way, and I know I'm safe. So Razor has been saying Miro Heiskanen. I can understand that there are some, maybe Finnish intricacies with the name. If you were in Finland, you might hear Finnish people saying Heiskanen, but here in Dallas, we're going to say Miro Heiskanen.
Got it. Is there you talked about a national brotherhood. Is there a brotherhood among PA announcers here in Dallas, Fort Worth?
Oh, sure.
I mean, I know you show up for two.
Yeah. So, I mean, the game presentation staff with the Stars is shared with the Cowboys, is shared with the Mavericks, is shared with the Rangers. It's a very small, close-knit group of folks. You'll find that, a lot of the same camera people work at the various venues. The fact that I get to do Cowboys and Stars is a blessing, but I know Sean Heath very well. He does the Mavericks. He also works with me at the Cowboys. Obviously, the great Chuck Morgan. Yeah. World Series champion Chuck Morgan is in charge at the Texas Rangers games. And I think for the rest of us, when we all grow up, we want to be as good as Chuck.
And I think people are happy for the playoffs, and we all are players, but we all are. But, players come and go. But I bet it was extra special for you. I know, having dealt with Chuck, and Chuck's amazing. And we talk all the time, either via email or seeing him in person. And that one hit me. There were two that hit me right away. I immediately thought of Eric Nadel, and I thought of Chuck Morgan. And of course, I thought of John Blake, Angie Swint, people behind the scenes that maybe our listeners don't know. But I mean, these people grind day in and day out for 30 plus years. I mean, just as special as it is from the athletes, probably receiving that ring is going to be extra special for those people.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, Chuck was inducted into the Rangers Hall of Fame. I was there for that game. I wanted to make sure that I was there to congratulate him. And when he made his speech there that day, he specifically mentioned that there was still one step left to take, not just for the franchise, but for him personally. And then
Yeah.
recently at the parade and the celebration, he mentioned waiting 40 years to call them World Series champs.
Yeah.
And a part of me, I felt warm inside because hopefully, if all things work out, someday I'll be able to say the same for the Dallas Stars and the Dallas Cowboys.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think Chuck has been asked about, retirement. And I mean, a lot of people don't know Chuck, I mean, we're in the same business together, Jeff. Chuck was an extremely successful radio DJ before he got into PA announcing.
Yep.
Chuck came up with the dot races. That it was great to see people dressed up as the dots at the parade.
Yep.
So I mean, he does so many things behind the scenes. So I know he was asked about, retiring, and he said, no, I need to see that banner go up, but I also need a year of saying World Series champions. And I think
Exactly.
that's so cool from your vantage point behind the microphone that you guys take extra pride in saying that word championship.
I think one thing you want to do as a public address announcer is you want to make sure that you are able to put your mark on the game presentation without getting in the way. I mean, when we think of Texas Rangers baseball, we think of Chuck Morgan. We think of it's baseball time in Texas.
That's pretty good. I like it.
That's him, right? So how could you possibly replace that? I certainly wouldn't want to. Thankfully, we talked about it earlier. Bill Ollerman was a beloved part of the Dallas Stars presentation. And when you think of that 99 Cup team, you think of Bill's big booming voice. So at first, the first couple of seasons taking over for Bill, I was nervous. I was worried that maybe I wouldn't be able to fill those shoes. But I stopped worrying about it and realized, what can I do myself to put my imprint on this game and maybe create some things that are new to the presentation myself. There was no power play call during Bill Ollerman's era.
Just about to bring that up.
Yep. Your Dallas Stars are on and then letting the crowd scream power play was something that we introduced during my tenure. Also introducing the countries of origin, the birthplaces of the players prior to their names during intros is something that happened during my tenure. And I really take pride in making sure that when I introduce Jani Hakanpää that I say Kirkkonummi, Finland. So those are things that I'm able to do to put my unique stamp on the presentation that hopefully, it makes it even more difficult for people to think about somebody else filling that role like it is with Chuck.
Are there any stories of people from Finland or another country that have heard you and said thank you?
Yes, and have coached me. My PA perch now, I'm no longer at center ice. That's a whole other story, but I'm now in section 110, and I've got a little setup there where I've got some monitors, and it's a really nice setup, and fans can come talk to me. It's also close to the section where the Stars' wives, girlfriends, and players sits in 110. And so I've got all of the Finns and their families next to me. And, I got some help, especially on Roope Hintz's city, which is spelled Tampere, which could be Tampere.
Yep.
But one of Roope's family members came up to me and he goes, Jeff, do you want to say it correctly? I said, of course I do. He said, all right, well, you need to say Tampere. I'm sorry, excuse me. See, I almost have to swallow the T. It's not Tampere, it's not Tampere, it's Tampere. Tampere, Finland.
Okay. All right.
So I do my best when I introduce Roope as Tampere, Finland, number 24, Roope Hintz.
Nice. So growing up as a fan and making that transition, does the fan ever still come out in you?
Oh, yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I decided once the league made that decision during COVID that public address announcers would need to be jettisoned from rinkside. And we really couldn't argue because half the guys in the league weren't even at rinkside to begin with. A lot of them were in the press box. That was my option. They said, Jeff, you could either go up to the press box, which would be, you've sat in the press box. It's really far away.
Yep.
And I can easily get distracted. Or you can stay in the lower bowl, but you're going to be close to the fans and you have a chance to have the fans come up and be next to you and they could distract you there. And I didn't even have to think about it. Starting out as a fan of the Dallas Stars and a season ticket holder, it was a no-brainer. Also on games like the blackout games, I get to wear my blackout jersey. I get to host the watching parties for
Yeah.
the Dallas Stars. So
Great at
yeah,
that too.
sometimes I'll get in trouble. Fan first, public address announcer second. One story I like to remind folks about was the night that Jamie Benn scored 4 points to win the Art Ross
Yeah.
Trophy.
Yeah.
So I was still at center ice doing my public address announcing that night. And when Jamie Benn broke the record to win the trophy, there's photos of Jamie hugging all the players, and they kind of drifted in a player hugging circle right by the penalty box. And all the photos of Jamie hugging, all the players that were there to congratulate him, you see me in the background going like this on the glass.
That's great.
While the off-ice official is staying very professional, sitting down, he's got his pen, he's writing the information. I'm on the glass going, yeah.
Wow.
So that will always be captured forever as a very unprofessional moment in my public address announcer career. But you know what? I don't care.
Yeah. You were the Nick Maroc, the sign guy.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't bang. God love Nick. But yeah, I was definitely cheering. Sometimes I have to remember that, there is some decorum, let's say, that I have to maintain. That's one of the benefits really of not being in the penalty box. If there is a benefit of not being that close, it's that I can scream and hoot and holler and high five everybody when they score. And I love that.
Yeah, I'm sure you've met so many, but one of the things I love about going to the games and doing this podcast is the relationship of the fans to the team and how dedicated they are, because we have to be honest, this is Dallas Fort Worth, and Stars hockey hasn't always been at the top. And it's one of those, that's why one of the reasons that we do this podcast with Ludwig and Sean Shapiro. And, we say we're trying to grow the great game because, and we get feedback, and people are almost afraid to ask questions like, when does it become icing? And now I'm seeing the more openness to send a question and not being afraid based on us answering the question and saying, that's a really good question, because this can be a difficult game to learn at times.
Yeah.
So there must be some amazing relationships you have with the Stars faithful.
Yeah. The Stars have always had a very small... There's Bowie, my dog. He's very excited.
Yeah. I got one in the background too.
Yeah. So no, the Stars have always had a very small but passionate group of fans, and very knowledgeable. And I think now that we've had some playoff success recently, you're even seeing it even more. We've sold out the lower bowl.
Amazing.
We've sold out the platinum level. And along with that, you really increase your home ice advantage. And, I encourage people to come to a Stars watching party. If you haven't been to one, they're a lot of fun, and you'll meet many of our hardcore fans, guys like Mullet Mike and Matt Mayday Day, and the guys that come to every event and bleed victory green for us. I don't know if you saw, but Joe Pavelski dressed up as Mullet Mike for Halloween this year. And that was that was a real tribute to one of our most passionate fans.
So Matt came down and met me in between one of the periods and brought his girlfriend. Great guy.
Yeah, they dress up as the Mandalorian, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the amazing thing that Matt was saying is that despite being together, they refuse to give up their tickets because they're in different sections.
Oh.
So they actually take turns. I'll be in your section. And Matt says, when I really want to concentrate on the game, I stay in my section. And I think it's, oh man, I wrote it down. He's well over 1,000 games now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think he just celebrated 1,000. That's the one thing I never kept track of. I need to go back and keep track of my games, but yeah, I love Matt Day. He was one of the original Havoc fanatics. That was a pet project of mine in the mid-aughts, where we actually tried to create a hooligan section at the American Airlines Center.
The one up top.
Section 332, I believe.
I remember it. It was great.
Yeah. And, through the lockouts and the threat of bankruptcy and all that kind of diminished, but all those people are still in the arena, though they're not all kind of over in one section anymore. But Matt's a great guy. And
this predates you, but I've never heard the story. Have you got the word as far as when the Stars chant during the Star Spangled Banner started and why it started?
I don't know the actual story. I just think it's one of those things where fans are always looking for something to own. And, when we had UC Jokinen playing for the team, they chanted UC during Osei Can UC. I mean, fans are always just trying to find something that they can embrace, whether it's to try to dig at the opposing team. The St. Louis Blues, the land of the free and the home of the blues. They like to do that. And the Red Wings will chant red, and the Vegas Golden Knights will scream night. So I love it. To me, you can't have enough fan interaction. It's a reason we decided to introduce the power play call. We wanted another chance for fans to have an opportunity to not only wake up and pay attention, but to get loud in the arena.
So getting back to that, just the cadence alone created something. And was that a bunch of people in the room that, because I mean, it would be very simple to say on the power play, but the on the power play, and then that music, the sting hits, and it's like, wow, that really hits home. How long did it take for it to take hold with the fans?
So once we decided we were going to do a power play call, we spent a season of just me saying the entire thing on the power play with that cadence, so we could get the Stars fans accustomed to hearing it. Then after a full season of that under our belt, we actually incorporated the folks at Stars Live. Then I think it was on Fox Sports Southwest prior to Bally's, and they did a game presentation feature for the Stars. I think it was right in the preseason. Julie Dobbs was the host, Julie Forbes, Julie Dobbs. And she actually helped me do a segment where we educated the fans. We said, hey, this season, and we're going to practice in preseason, I'll say on the, and we're counting on you guys to say power play. So, it was touch and go for a while. And for that first season, I might preface it by saying, all right, Stars fans, I start it, you finish loud. With the St. Louis penalty, powered by TXU Energy. Your Dallas Stars are on the, I need to finish loud, power play.
Nice. So you're with the Stars doing well. How did the Cowboys gig? Because Roger Emmerich was one of my employees. I had a special relationship with Roger, and his son Ted is doing amazing things, but Roger was a character among characters. And, I always said, when you see Roger, he's going to be the nicest guy, but make sure you have a half hour so you can hear about the Who playing in the night, in the 1970s in the Montreal Forum. I mean,
we could do a whole podcast about how great Roger is, but I'll try to make the long story short. It goes back to 2012. I was still the in-game host for the Stars. And like I said, the game presentation people in DFW are very fraternal. We all know each other. Matt Coy was the director of presentation for the Cowboys at that time. He was also a big San Jose Sharks fan because I think he actually did some work for San Jose at the time. Matt also produced NHL games for the Olympics, I believe. Now he handles the New York Rangers. He's good. So at the time, Matt said, hey, I want to come to a game, Stars Sharks. So, okay. All right. So we're going to get Matt tickets to see the Stars Sharks. So after the game, Matt goes, hey, I saw you do an in-game host. Would you be interested in doing that for the Cowboys? I said, let me think about that for a while. Okay. So he had me out to the stadium where I had to audition for Charlotte Jones, Jerry's daughter, Charlotte, who's in charge of all the marketing and everything. Game presentation ultimately goes through Charlotte. And they had me look at games they were doing up on the big Jerry Vision screen. And I basically just had to narrate what I thought would be a fun game based on what I was seeing. And then she wasn't there. She was up in some suite. And then Matt's like, he had her on the phone. Okay, do it again. This time a little slower. Saw it, paced myself a little bit more. All right, this time do it a little faster. Did it again, did it a little bit faster. Didn't hear anything for a couple of days. And then Matt called and said, well, you got the job. So then I was in-game host for the Cowboys for about 6-7 seasons. And then we lost Roger and Brad LaRock. Do you know Brad LaRock?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so it was a multifaceted PA presentation with the Cowboys. Brad did the marketing announcements. Hey, Cowboys fans, get a scratch-off ticket from the Texas Lottery. And, Roger did the, Dak Prescott's pass complete to, whoever, Jason Witten at the time. So they shared the load. So when both of them passed, they held a small audition. It was me and about 6 other people. And again, To me, the Cowboys could have done a nationwide or an international search. They're the number one franchise in the world. They deserve to have the best public address announcer in the world. But it was one of us 6 people. And it just goes to show that sometimes, it's based on how well you work with people and dance with the devil who brung you, I guess, because I was very nonchalant about it. I thought I would get Brad's part. I can do the marketing job. In fact, I used to replace Brad when Brad wouldn't come in for preseason games, and I do the TV host part. So I thought, I can get this marketing part of it. I don't know who's going to get the play-by-play. So after we did the auditions, Corey Miller, who's now in charge of the Cowboys, he called and he said, "Well, you got it." I said, "Really? That's great. Who's going to do the play-by-play part?" He goes, "No, that's you." I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, Charlotte really liked the way you did it." And basically, I just did it very nonchalant. I wasn't over the top. I wasn't screaming. It was Zeke Elliott, 10 yards, second down, that kind of thing. And apparently that's what they were looking for. They didn't want a screamer. They wanted somebody who was very reserved. That's the way the Cowboys PA had always been handled.
Yep. And
so I said, "Well, who's going to do the marketing?" And Corey said, "Well, would you want to do it too?" I said, "Well, that's 2 jobs, right?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, can I get paid for 2 jobs?" So anyway, we tried it during preseason, and it's stuck ever since. So it's basically the Jeff K show from the time you get into the stadium till the end. And so I'm doing all the play-by-play and the marketing. But one more thing about Roger. Roger had a podcast, which was on Vocal, the platform. Yep. And I was one of his first guests on the podcast. Now, if you know anything about my radio history, I've been through 15 chapters. I started out as the one on the original alternative DJs on the Edge in the 90s.
I remember that.
I was a big rave DJ in the mid 90s. I went to California and worked for the country's first all techno rave station,
the Lizard Lounge, and Jeff K.
Yeah, we used to work
at
the Lizard Lounge, exactly. And then I came back, and then I was a classic rock DJ, which I still am today. So Roger wanted me on his podcast. And he basically went to my vanity site, jeffk.net, where I have a bio, which explains all the various chapters of my elongated radio career. And he conducted a podcast with me like he knew me for 35 years. He was so well prepared. And he said, "So Jeff, you spent 2 years in California and you called that techno summer camp, didn't you? Now, why did you call it that?" And I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
He spent all this time getting prepared for a silly interview with stupid me, but that's just how Roger was. And I miss him every day. And I put a little bit of Roger in some of my calls at AT&T Stadium, just a little bit of Cowboys, just a little Cowboys in there, just as a tribute to Roger.
Yeah. Is there one hockey game during the season that psychs you up? Obviously, we have Boston coming up, and that's a crazy crowd. And anytime the original 6 comes in, including the New York Rangers, it's pretty awesome. But is there a selected team that you say, "All right, this is a great night"?
What's funny is Vegas has become quickly one of our biggest adversaries, I'd say, just based on what we've had playoff wise with them recently. It's always fun when an original 6 team comes in because they don't come very often. If it's a Toronto or a Boston or a New York, and you'll see a lot of fair weather fans in the stadium. Their fans travel well, so it's always fun to have a rivalry. Used to be you'd get the same thing with the Blackhawks and the Red Wings fans. But these days I feel like, selling out the lower bowl and the platinum, that our fans have really stepped up to the challenge. So we don't have those nights where we feel outnumbered. I really do look forward to the New Year's Eve game. That's always fun.
Yeah.
And I also look forward to the Hockey Fights Cancer Night, as we all know somebody who's passed from cancer. And it's a chance for me to put on a suit and the lavender tie, which I rarely get dressed up in a suit. So that's always fun.
So I don't know if Roger would ask this question, but we're hard hitting here on Spits and Suds. How do you juggle the bathroom and being a PA announcer?
It's much more difficult for the Dallas Cowboys than it is for the Stars. Thankfully, we've got Selena Ray as one of our in-game hosts, and we've also introduced a second in-game host this season, a guy by the name of Jersey Goldman. He goes by the name Jersey. So they've actually freed me up for some of my reads during intermission, so
Okay.
I can use intermission time wisely. Now for the Cowboys, it's halftime, unless like last weekend where we had the DeMarcus Ware induction ceremony at halftime in the Cowboys Ring of Honor, and I had to announce that entire thing. I think I had about 90 seconds. So, as soon as that last line was read, I slammed the headphones down and ran as fast as I could, and I think managed to get back as the ball was in the air being kicked off for the third
Wow.
quarter.
Wow. So how do you juggle your schedule as far as, do you run into many conflicts?
Thankfully, no.
Yeah.
The Stars have always been smart that they've never, I think they think ahead, and it
Yeah.
would be unwise to have a Stars game going head to head with a Cowboys game,
Sure.
especially in Dallas. So there's only been one or two conflicts the entire, decade that I've worked for the Cowboys. One of them, I had back surgery and I had to miss. In fact, that was the last time the Cowboys lost a home game. That was the first game of the regular season last year.
Yep.
So lesson learned, I can never miss another Cowboys game again, apparently. And with the Stars, I want to say it was a preseason Stars game that conflicted with a Cowboys game. And because I told you that a lot of the same people work for both teams, thankfully, my director of game presentation for the Stars, Kevin Harp, who's wonderful guy, great guy, one of the best in the business. He also works for the Cowboys on certain games. So he let me slide on that one. Now, had it been flipped, had it been a Stars playoff game versus a Cowboys preseason game, I probably would have had to take the Stars, but I don't think the schedule would work out that way. So long story short, there's been maybe two conflicts in about a decade. So it's not something I have to worry about.
So let's get a little nerdy as far as the in-game presentation. So is there someone next to you do they have an earpiece and are they getting the call as far as, because it's pretty quick as far as, 2 minutes tripping and then your announcement.
Right.
So how does that process work? Because I think a lot of Stars fans always wonder that.
Right. So, and again, that's one of the benefits of being at center ice is that I'm actually sitting next to the
Yeah.
off ice officials, and they're my lifeline. I really can't say anything as far as goals or penalties until it's given to me by the off ice officials. Now that I'm away from center ice and I'm away from the off ice officials, I'm by myself at my PA perch in section 110. But I have a comm unit where I have a bank of buttons. Each button is dedicated to one person. One is for Kevin Harp. One is for Shippy, our music guy. One is for off ice officials. So as soon as it's a penalty, I generally know what it's going to be because not only am I watching on ice there, but I'm also listening in my headphones. One of my channels on my comm unit is the broadcast. So I'm hearing Josh and Razor, and they'll tell me right away who scored the goal or what the penalty is. So I'll pencil it in. And that way, when the off ice officials say, that's Mason Marchment, 2 minutes for roughing, time of the penalty, 3:42. Then as soon as the puck drops, I'll announce it. We can go with the power play call when it's a penalty on the opposing team as soon as the ref announces it.
Got
So
it.
as soon as the ref says penalty, San Jose Sharks number 3, Kevin Harp says, all right, Jeff, go. Make the power play call. Then the puck drops. Then it's San Jose penalty, number 3, 2 minutes, holding, time of the penalty, et cetera, et cetera.
There have been cases when consecutive goals have been scored within seconds. Is there a method that you wait to call both? Like, I've seen it. Let's just use San Jose as an example. Sharks score, and then, the Stars, let's say, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds later, score a goal. So now you have 2 goals to announce. How does that process work?
The general rule is just to try to get them announced as quickly as possible. So as soon as we get the information, we're going to want to get it out there. In the event that, it's 2 goals back to back, if I can get both of them, I'm still going to announce them one at a time. The first Sharks goal scored by, et cetera, and then I'll wait and have Kevin Harp tell me, all right, go for the second one. We never would announce 2 consecutive, one at a time and in order. I don't think I would announce the goal that was scored more recently prior to the one that was scored prior.
Yeah. All right. So you said Las Vegas Knights. Are we going to have a guy go on the ice and dress up and take down the other person like their pregame presentation.
I think that's what's beautiful about the Vegas
Yeah.
presentation is it could only happen in Vegas.
Yeah.
And so there are some things every year that, we at the Dallas Stars and specifically Kevin Harp and Jonathan Monet and the Brain Trust with the Stars as far as the game presentation try to do to really, embrace all that is Texas. This year we've got a bit of a Yellowstone theme going with our introductions. A bit of a Sam Elliott voiceover with the videos, which, again, is something that, a team in Detroit could not do. And we want to embrace Texas hockey. I'm sure you've noticed the past couple of seasons, that's been the hashtag on social media.
Right.
Would we like to see another team eventually come to Texas? In Houston, maybe? San Antonio? Sure. Would we want to own the entire state of Texas and maybe head them off at the pass with a hashtag years out with Texas hockey? We might just want to do that as well.
Yeah. I mean, especially, Stars fans are so fortunate right now. And this really hasn't happened in a while where you have current team excelling and you're ready for the future. Pixel, Stankoven, Maverick Bork. I mean, it's just the Texas Stars are a great watch right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, we were worried for a while that how would this team make the transition? They were aging a little bit, who's going to be next after Ben and Sagan? And then, we had that wonderful draft where we got Otter and we got Miro and we got Robo and now they're almost the leaders for the next generation of the Stankovens and the Bixels. And I really feel like Jim Nill's done a fantastic job of bridging the gap and really stocking the pond. I mean, I feel like, knock on wood again, injuries are inevitable, but would we love to see Logan Stankoven get a shot? But yes, but we don't want to put that pressure on him to make him feel like he has to perform like he's been performing. Let it become organic. I think what we saw with Wyatt Johnston last year was an anomaly.
Yeah.
But he's proven no sophomore slump. The kid has just been unbelievable. If he doesn't lead the Stars currently, he's near the top in scoring.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Bruins coming in Monday have a same thing, a player that made the jump, 19 years old, and I think he's playing on the second line of the Bruins right now. But boy, exciting times. It's pretty awesome. Matt Duchene is worth every single cent. So it's awesome what's happening in Dallas, and you're a massive part of it. And I'm so glad the Spits and Suds listeners got to hear from you because you are a major part of the presentation. And while several of my questions were simplistic, at the same time, these are things that I've always wondered. And I did 2 Dallas Burn PA games at the old Cotton Bowl. Yeah, absolutely. It's the most fun I've had. I could not roll my R's, Jeff. That cost me. That cost me.
I enjoy all the R's in Robertson and Rope and Raddick. Yeah, no, I embrace that for sure. And again, I still can't believe that I've become the conduit between the action on the ice and the fans in the arena for a game that I've grown up my entire life loving, and that if I wasn't a Dallas Stars employee, I would certainly be in the stands as a fan anyway. And that's why I'm really excited to share as much as we possibly can about what goes on with game presentation. So, if you want to know more, I'm at the arenas in section 110. I have a little more time pre-warm up. If you want to get in there early, come by the PA perch. I'd love to talk to you and show you what it is that I do. I'm also available on social media at JeffK_stars. You can reach out to me there. Also, we don't have any watching parties on the books yet, but I'm hearing rumblings of some getting scheduled pretty quick. So bookmark the website at dallasstars.com. Come to a watch party. We can, share an icy cold one, and we can talk all about all the fun stuff of Dallas Stars game presentation and what we need from you, the fans, to make it even better.
Absolutely. And Jeff, if you could do us a favor when you're walking through those Stars hallways, if you could just drop hey, I think Ludwig should be in the Stars Hall of Fame.
Hey, let me ask you, Gavin, who is next in the, we just saw Hitch and Eddie the Eagle. Who would be your next player and your next founder?
Man.
Or builder, or whatever they call it.
Is Neuendijk in yet?
No.
Yeah, I think Joe Neuendijk.
The Conn Smythe winner from the 99 team.
Yeah. I think that's special. I honestly, I would put, and this is why, like, I joke about it, but Craig was such an important factor just in the room with that team
Yeah.
that I think he needs to go in. I mean, he's a 2-time Stanley Cup winner.
I think
So
Craig Ludwig goes in not just for all that, but for the fact that there wouldn't have been a Pantera puck off without Craig Ludwig.
absolutely. Yeah. 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 And that story has been changed, and it's gone from a courier to a private plane. And I asked Luds about that the other day, and it was absolutely amazing how he told the story. And I don't want to do it wrong, but the fact that when he said to me on the podcast that Hitchcock came in the room and Ludwig spoke up and said, "We're not moving." And Hitchcock had choice words and said, "Get your, on the ice." And I said, "We're not moving." And he goes, "I hear the songs in the arena. And when we hear it, because it's going to play shortly, then we'll get up." And he said, as soon as that music hit, it was synonymous. All the players rose at once and went on the ice.
And again, that's another thing about the Stars presentation that no other team can do, right?
Yeah.
No other
Yeah.
team can play a song that says Dallas Stars. And so we owe a great debt to Vinny and Dime and the Pantera boys. And that story of 99 is much like the Nirvana show at Trees in 1991, where now everybody says they were there, but Trees at capacity was maybe 400 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
probably weren't there, so don't tell
Yeah.
me about it.
And you know what? Maybe as the cup team, gets into the hall, maybe Vinnie Paul gets in someday. I
A
know
little
that seems
posthumous tribute. Yes, I like it.
absolutely, because it's
I
part
like
of
it.
Stars history and so many people, and I got a chance to talk to Vinny before he passed
Yep.
and still was a passionate fan.
Oh, yeah.
And
Season ticket holder would come
yeah,
to games, would do
yeah.
bits with us on the screen. My passion was to try to get Hell Yeah to do an updated version of it.
Oh, yeah.
But I never broached it because I thought, well, how can you improve on the original, and blasphemy to try to think that anything, whatever. I just would like a better quality version of it. I feel maybe that's the appeal too, is the fact that it's just so raw, and it might be a generation of a generation of a generation of an MP3 that we play at this point. But maybe Ludwig can give me that original CD and we can re-record it into the system.
If he had that would be one thing.
Maybe that's at the bottom of the pool too.
Yeah, yeah. I asked him where his shin guards were, and I don't even know if he knows. In the
Those are in the Hall of Fame, right?
No, you didn't know that?
Well, that's something else we need to get done.
Okay, so no, the Hall of Fame kept calling him.
Oh, okay.
And, leaving him messages. And I mean, they were barraging him like, "Craig, we want the shin guards. Craig, we want the shin guards." So finally, he saw that they were calling. He picks up and he says, "I just want to let you know, you can have the shin guards, but the person who wore them has to go as well." And he says they never called him back.
What? Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's just he's just an awesome dude,
Yeah.
It's just
and he's real. That's a thing.
Yeah.
He's one of those throwback,
Oh yeah,
old time hockey
yeah.
guys that
Oh, yeah.
Slapshot, Gordie Howe, Craig Ludwig, right? Old time hockey.
Yeah, we do these charity dinners together, and people will lean over and it's like, wow, he really goes at you even off the podcast. I'm like, yeah, he's a dick. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I love Luds, man.
Yeah, I do too as well.
Legend.
Jeff,
All right, now you convinced me. I think we need to get him in next year for sure.
I mean,
I'm not on the panel. I'm not on the committee, much to my chagrin. I also want to make clear that even though I am the voice in the arena, I am just a game night employee. I don't work for the Stars during the day. I'm not there 9 to 5. I show up and they tell me what's going to happen, and it's my job to bring the excitement and convey the excitement through my presentation. I am not the all-knowing and all-being for Stars stuff. They will listen if I have a suggestion. So yeah, I'll throw out Craig's name for sure.
Yeah, Craig, Marty Turco.
I think Turco should go in too.
I mean, Hockey Night in Canada still talks about Turco and his stick handling.
Yep.
And by the way, they still call him Sagan. Which is fascinating too.
Yeah, and Medano. You'll never get over
like,
Medano either.
Yeah, I see. And I appreciate Jeff because now I have the official pronunciations, and I hope you don't mind when I hit you up
That's
for
right.
my silliness as far as like, okay, how should I go about this? Because
Yep.
hockey and their pronunciations are wow. I mean, the fact that you're flawless at it, I mean, it's big time stick tap to you. And thank you for all that you do. I know Stars fans, when they take a step back and think about it, well, thank you as well, because you're just such a massive part of the in game presentation. And we truly appreciate the time today. Go Stars, my man.
All right, Gavin, appreciate the podcast, and tell Sean we missed him. And I look forward to listening. I listen every week, buddy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Sean's my analytic guy, man. And I just throw stuff out and he hits home run after home run. He's awesome. And like I said, we're spreading the good word about hockey. And I'm so excited for Stars fans to hear you on this podcast.
One last thing, I'll let you go.
Yeah.
Sean Shapiro's got the book, 100 Things You Need to Know
Yes.
About the Dallas Stars Before You Die, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
There is a chapter on Jeff K being lowered on a stage with flames shooting all around him at the 2007 NHL All-Star Game. Read that chapter.
Really? And
Yeah, that's for our next podcast.
Okay,
Yeah, it was a
all right,
ridiculous
all right.
idea from the league. I thought it would be the dumbest thing in the world. It turned out to be one of the coolest things you'd ever want to see on TV.
Wow.
That was the year Gary Bettman decided to have the All-Star Game on a Wednesday night or Tuesday night. We went up against American Idol. It was the least watched All-Star Game in history, but I looked cool coming down from the rafters, and Sean thought it was a neat story, so he put it in his book.
Do you have video or pictures of it?
Yes,
Wow.
there is a YouTube video. I will send you the link. In fact, I will reply if this gets posted. I'll reply to it there.
And folks, those are real albums. If you're watching, those are real in the background. Those are, yes. We're talking about a guy that's been in radio for a long time, extremely successful on so many things. All right. We'll hear your Cowboys calls. We'll hear your Stars calls. My man, look forward to having you back again.
All right, Gavin, go Stars, buddy.
All right. And that's another Spits and Suds one-timer right here.